Hello and welcome to Off the Beaten Tracks. Today I will be answering 10 questions about this album. This is Sometime in New York City by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Stay tuned. So why don't we start with question number one. Is reviewing a John Lennon album an anathema to everything Off the Beaten Track stands for, you hypocritical poopy pants? Well, I'm glad I asked that question. While John Lennon is debatably far more famous than some of the clog dancers and Hungarian opera singers that I do put on this channel, I would posit that this is one of the least listened to of the, Beatles solo albums. It's up there with George Harrison's Wonderwall, and it took me 49 years to buy this album. And I'm guessing even among Beatle fans, this doesn't hit the turntable too often. So I feel that I have defended my position fairly well, and I have not pooped my pants in 6 to 8 months minimum. So there. Okay, question number two. Is Sometime in New York as bad as most people and the critics at the time say it was? I don't think so. I think this album has some fine songs on it. Could it be a lot better if Yoko Ono wasn't singing on this album? Abso-fucking-lutely. Without a doubt, this would be a much, much better album with the absence of Yoko. That being said, there are no working class heroes. There are no imagines on this record. There's nothing, I don't think, remotely comes close to, a hit single on here. But, it is not without its charms, and it's not horrible. I mean, it's not Live Peace in Toronto, though the second side of this would certainly come close. We'll get back to that later. Question number three. What do you think about the naughty word in the very first song's title? Well, it doesn't bother me. I have the same kind of approach to words as George Carlin did, but I realize that there are those among us who are not quite as oratorically free-thinking as myself and George, so I shall refrain from calling it what its full title and just refer to it as Woman. Now, to show you how times have changed, Woman, back in the day, not only was it released as a single with the full title and the phrase and word fully featured in the song, but it was also performed live on the Dick Cavett Show. So, times have certainly changed about that word. Question number four. Was this song, Woman, hypocritical in its depiction of women's suffrage? Well, considering John's treatment of Cynthia when he met Yoko, and considering John's treatment of Yoko when he met May Pang, and considering that at one point John had to be pulled off of May Pang from strangling her to death by Harry Nilsson, you'd have to say that's a fair comment. I think one could say that John did not live up to the ideals of the Woman song, certainly because this was 72 and May Pang was 73. And now we get to question number five. What are your favorite songs on Sometime in New York? I would say right off the top, Attica is a good, simple rocker, an enjoyable song. I also like John Sinclair off the second side, and surprisingly, I also liked Yoko Ono's last song on this record, called We're All Water. It typically stays within her rather limited vocal comfort zone, and while there are some squeals that seem to be her calling card on this, but they are not quite as glass-shattering as on the bonus album, which you get right into after you hear the more commercial of the two records, and a little closer to Lena Lovitch rather than somebody suffering from unbearable hemorrhoids. So would this song be better if it was 30 seconds or so shorter? Absolutely. Yes, it would. It does go a little long, but, for Yoko, this is Let It Be. Question number 6 is, who the hell is John Sinclair? Now, this is a terrific probing question and should be asked, I think, because the song is good and it's saying in the song, free John Sinclair. Well, what was his problem? And I'll get a little background here. John was a political activist and poet, and also the manager of the MC5. Pretty good already. He was originally from Flint, Michigan, and got busted in 1969 for handing an undercover female cop a couple of joints. And for this, what today would be a minor crime and perfectly legal in places, he got 10 years in the jug, sentenced to 10 years. So the first real protest, public protest, of this rather stiff sentence for poor John came from Jerry Rubin. And he jumped up on stage during Woodstock, during the Who set, and managed to blurt out a couple of sentences about Mr. Sinclair's plight before he was grabbed and thrown off the stage by Pete Townsend. Now, John wrote this song. He was hanging around with Jerry Rubin because I remember when John and Yoko did that bizarre week of co-hosting on the Mike Douglas show, Jerry Rubin was one of the guests he had on, so I'm sure that there was probably, that's how this case came into Mr. Lennon's brain. And he was eventually let go, I think just before the album was released. So when he said, saying free John Sinclair, it was a little moot because John was out of the jug by that time, but he was under constant surveillance by the FBI for many years to come. So he's still, the song still counts because he was still a victim of injustice. Now, an interesting little snippet is that in 2019, December 1st, 2019, marijuana became legal in Michigan. And John Sinclair was the very first person in all of Michigan to buy legal pot. And I thought Mr. Lennon would have loved that little piece of irony. Okay, question number 7 is what you think of the Yoko songs. There are 3 on this album, 2 obviously, if you do the math, besides We're All Water, which I quite like. And those are Born in Prison and Sister Sister. They sound like beach party movie songs sung off key. To be honest, that's what they are. I mean, the lyrics are certainly darker. Born in Prison has quite some dark lyrics on it. But it has a very late 50s, early 60s, teenager, on the beach kind of vibe. And considering that the album was co-produced by Phil Spector, that would, I'm sure he heavily influenced what she decided to do. These songs are in no way the kind of experimental kind of stuff she did on her own solo albums. She's playing Annette Funicello on this if Ninette had just had throat surgery. Question number 8. How do I feel about the artwork on this album? Well, and I'll open it up here for you. There you go. I liked it. The newspaper format is not totally original. The Four Seasons did this with the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette, and of course, just previous to this album, I believe, Jethro Tull released Thick as a Brick, which is in the same kind of newspaper format. Though on this album, the news articles are the songs and the lyrics are the newsprint. So that, at least, I like that. Does it continue the theme? No. On the inside, the 2 bands from the live album and who plays on this record. On the inner sleeves, this is sort of in the news. This would be an advertisement, a satirical ad for joining the Army. But on the other side, it just lists the credits. On the live album, you get some of John's artwork and his famous little sketch of himself there. And on this side, there are the credits for the live album. And basically, this is good because this gives you an idea of the actual music and the thought that went into it with all the chaos here. Number 9. Will you ever listen to the bonus album again? Boy, I'd have to say probably not. I mean, it's possible. I've listened to Metal Machine Music several times, but I find this with Yoko Ono's vocals more annoying than that album. It just is unbelievably, unrelentingly grating. And so I'd have to say that when my eventual and unbelievably tragic passing does occur, that whoever inherits this album from me will get sides 3 and 4 just as virgin as they are today, because this is probably not going to see another needle in my lifetime. Okay, we're on to the last question now. Question 10. Any last thoughts on this record, you hypocritical poopy pants? Well, I'm going to say yes, I do have some last thoughts on this. John Lennon at this time was having a lot of trouble. I mean, well-documented trouble with booze and drugs, and he was just about to, even though he puts on this somewhere that this was released on his anniversary to Yoko, relatively quickly after this album was released, he heads off to L.A. with May Pang for a drunken, what was it, 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. So with all those drugs and the booze, there's a kind of laziness to these songs. You know, they're just that he kind of easy rockers. But even that being said, that talent that John was born with does come through at certain points, and it does make it worth a listen. Is this album worth $100? No, but I didn't pay $100 for this. I think I think I got it for under 20, and for a double album under 20, even though you're never probably going to listen to side 3 and 4 again, being an album that is from the Beatles. Especially Beatles, people should probably look this up and at least give it a hearing for that kind of money.